Flight risk. That's the focus of tonight's angle. It keeps happening.
2 people dead after the FAA said this occurred in a mid-air collision right here at the Marana Airport.
That was this morning, right outside of Tucson, and that made it 5 crashes in 1 month. Now, late January, of course, here in D.C., we saw the worst American aviation disaster in over 23 years. An Army helicopter collided with an American Airlines jet, 67 people dead. Now, only a day later in Philly, a medevac plane came down from the sky like a missile. 7 dead, 19 injured. Then last week in Scottsdale, 1 pilot on a private plane is dead after they veered off the runway and crashed into a business jet. And on Monday night in Toronto, that terrifying video of a Delta jet that flipped over at landing. Now, miraculously, no one died, but questions are swirling about how this could have happened. So what on earth is going on? Americans are worried, understandably so, especially when we seem to get information in dribs and drabs about how this is happening. To restore trust in our aviation system, we need total transparency. Now, last week, regarding that horrific D.C. crash, the NTSB offered only a preliminary finding.
CVR data from the Black Hawk indicated that the portion of the transmission stating the CRJ was circling may not have been received by the Black Hawk crew.
Okay. How do they not know if this is a problem at this point in the tower, or was it in the cockpit? We don't know. But we do know that we need to get a handle on this, and fast, because the flying public must be reassured. And who can blame them? Because under Biden, the FAA, the U.S. military, and corporate America elevated DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, to deity status. And by the way, that included Delta Airlines.
I went into a meeting and I was the most junior person there. And I looked around the table and it was full of women. And that's when I really realized this is an agency that can empower women and grow them and and have them become leaders.
How reassuring. And we certainly know that under Biden and Harris, DEI was enshrined at every level of government. That was a top priority for them. Now, recall the rampant speculation when there was a delay in announcing the name of that female Black Hawk pilot who was one of the 3 crew members tragically lost on that helicopter when it collided with the American regional jet. Meanwhile, the 2 male pilots' names were released within just hours of the crash. Now, most of the female pilots' social media had been scrubbed, we learned about in the interim, which, of course, just led to more speculation. Again, whatever the truth is, the public has a right to know. So is this series of aviation nightmares, is it all just really a coincidence? Or have we lowered standards because we lost pilots during COVID, remember the vax mandate, or did we somehow lose pilots to meet DEI goals? Again, we need answers. But my favorite moment of the day came early this morning on CBS when Gayle King, in an interview with the Delta CEO, tried to blame Trump's FAA staffing cuts on this.
After looking at all these mishaps, a lot of people are very nervous. Do these cuts affect you?
The cuts do not affect us, Gail. The reality is there's over 50,000 people that work at the FAA, and the cuts, I understand, were 300 people, and they were in non-critical safety functions.
Oops. Next time, buy a vowel or call Oprah. Now, we shouldn't be surprised, though, because when Gayle's show prep is always the anti-Trump echo chamber, of course it's what she's going to say.
This is going to yet again raise the concern about FAA staffing, air traffic control staffing.
Hundreds of FAA employees have been laid off as part of Elon Musk going through all the federal agencies.
I have been panicking over all this insanity with these planes. Yeah. Let's start with the string of mass firings by Elon Musk's Doge.
I feel like we're living in some kind of chaos right now.
Totally, Joy. Well, they're just taking, again, their cues from their unofficial bosses.
The FAA The more Donald Trump and Doge indiscriminately hack away at public agencies, the greater harm to Americans' well-being and even their safety.
Of course, even before that Toronto crash, Eric Swalwell said that all the crashes are Trump's fault. But all this does beg the question, is there something we are doing with these critical positions that is making the skies more dangerous? How could that Toronto scene have unfolded the way it did? Matthew Buckley was an F-18 and a commercial airline pilot. He says the pilot should have been able to slow that aircraft down.
You've ever seen a crash like this on a regular runway with no snow, that fireball eventually catches up to the airplane as it stops and fuels all over the place. This could have been a hell of a lot worse, but thank God it actually rolls in the snow. You can actually see the fire more or less go out. So in this case, the snow actually saved a lot of lives.
Would the pilots have enough warning if they were coming into contact with the ground too quickly?
Absolutely, Bill.
Oh. And what do we know about the pilots in the cockpit that day? We'll find out. The bottom line is we should never have to even discuss whether diversity, equity, inclusion was a factor in any critical role, but especially in the cockpit. If the best pilots are indeed women or they're minorities, great, whatever. That's fantastic. But job placement should be based on merit, period. Same with fellowships in medical school or in any other area of life where life and death literally is on the line. Now, Donald Trump is committed to eradicating DEI in government hiring and, of course, through our educational system where any federal funds are involved. Good. It's not a moment too soon. Objective measures of skill, excellence, and performance. That should always be our guide, not skin color, not sexual preference, not gender. And yes, our lives depend on it. And that's The Angle.